don't understand you. What kind of person are you? How could you love a person and you took her life? How? Why did you do this to my child? Why did you do this to my family? Why? Why?
Breaking in my house? Like, are you serious? You breaking in my house, Jameer?
Why would I break in your house?
Why are you at my door with gloves on and all that?
On an ordinary Saturday morning, a hospital parking lot became the setting for a crime no one inside could have imagined. Before anyone realized something had gone wrong, the person responsible had already blended into the scene, hidden behind a blonde wig, dark glasses, and a lowered cap. I want us to begin there, because the investigation would later show that every movement had been calculated long before the attack. Patrice Wilson had just completed her overnight shift at DMC Detroit Receiving Hospital. At 29 years old, she balanced demanding work as a registered nurse with life as a devoted mother, a loving daughter, and her family's only child. With her keys in hand, she crossed the lot thinking about getting home, seeing her young son, checking in with her mother, and finally getting some rest after a long night. Only a short distance away, someone watched her approach without drawing attention. Concealed by a disguise and carrying a handgun, he waited until the timing suited him. Patrice never recognized the danger closing in around her, nor could she have expected that the person hiding behind that costume was someone she knew. The violence unfolded in well under 2 minutes. Inside her own SUV, Patrice suffered fatal gunfire before she ever had the chance to escape or call for help. The attacker then climbed behind the wheel and calmly drove away from the same hospital where she had spent years caring for strangers, taking her body with him through the streets of Metro Detroit. Inside the building, her mother continued working, completely unaware that her only child was no longer alive. By the time the truth emerged, the quiet morning had already transformed into the beginning of a homicide investigation that would uncover far more than anyone first suspected. This is the story of Patrice Wilson. Before this case turned into a homicide investigation, Patrice LaToya Wilson had already built a life defined by commitment, ambition, and the people she loved most. Born on August 1, 1993, in Detroit, Michigan, she steadily carved out a place in healthcare through determination rather than luck. As we trace her story backward, it becomes clear that the tragedy erased a future she had spent years carefully creating. Every goal she chased ultimately centered on giving her young son, Tyrese, every opportunity she could. Her career reflected that determination. After earning her nursing degree from Oakland University, Patrice joined Detroit Receiving Hospital, a facility within the Detroit Medical Center, where she worked as a registered nurse. She also became a proud member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, embracing both professional and community service. Even after demanding overnight shifts, her 7-year-old son remained the priority waiting at the end of every day. Patrice's ambitions reached beyond bedside care. In December 2019, she and her close friend Deandra Brown launched Nursing from the D, a platform created to celebrate Detroit nurses, strengthen connections within the profession, and showcase their shared passion for caring for others. She continued expanding her career while planning for the future one step at a time. Her mother, Rosalind Livingston, worked inside the same Detroit Medical Center, having helped Patrice secure her nursing position, and the two often spent their workdays under the same roof as both family and co-workers. Another part of Patrice's life unfolded far differently. For roughly 3 years, she maintained an on and off relationship with Jameer Michael Miller of Inkster, Michigan. By the time they met, Jameer had accumulated a lengthy criminal history that included weapons offenses, drug-related charges, assault, driving under the influence, fleeing police, and documented domestic violence incidents. Those records would later take on greater significance. From the outside, the relationship sometimes resembled an ordinary romance, filled with shared outings and periods when everything appeared stable. Behind closed doors, however, a different pattern emerged. Audio recordings documented escalating conflict, including disputes over money, broken commitments, and Patrice expressing that she no longer trusted what Jameer told her.
So I fucking want to leave my car.
You all talk, no action.
So she think I'm talking, no action.
You all talk, no action.
Wait, what?
with everything. You say you're gonna pay me my $20,000. You still haven't. I got it to $200 a month, and you gave it to me one time.
Those conversations revealed cracks that would later become impossible for investigators to ignore. By the time this relationship reached its final chapter, the separation existed only on Patrice's side. Jameer Michael Miller refused to let it end. Instead of respecting her decision, he repeatedly forced his presence back into her life in ways that people close to her later described as persistent and increasingly unsettling. Looking back, those incidents formed a pattern that investigators would eventually examine far more closely. Patrice answered his efforts without confrontation. Flowers arrived, packages appeared outside her home. Each delivery remained exactly where it had been left because she intentionally refused to bring anything inside. Friends recalled seeing unopened gifts sitting at her doorway for days, a silent but unmistakable message that she wanted no further contact. Even so, the deliveries continued, revealing that rejection alone did not discourage him.
The more she pulled away, he was sending flowers. If you go by her house, there's things at her door that she kind of like left there to let him know that I'm not accepting things from you.
The situation escalated in 2021 when Patrice's Ring doorbell camera captured another encounter. Wearing a mask and gloves, Jameer appeared outside her residence and tried to gain entry. Patrice confronted him through the camera, questioning why he was attempting to enter her home and why he had come prepared with gloves. He denied what she accused him of, yet the recorded footage told its own story. After she shared the video publicly, it spread widely and strengthened concerns that his behavior had moved beyond unwanted contact into an ongoing pattern of stalking. Months later, unrelated events would add another layer to the picture. In February 2023, Michigan authorities located Jameer at his apartment, where they recovered weapons and controlled substances. Prosecutors filed 14 separate criminal charges stemming from that investigation. At the same time, he remained on probation in Washtenaw County, was out on bond before Judge Cox in the Third Circuit Court in another case, and also faced a separate substance-related bond in Wayne County. Despite that extensive legal situation, he was still living in the community. As Mother's Day weekend approached, Jameer's online activity also drew attention after the fact. Using the Facebook profile Cash King Jameer, he created an album titled Me and P. Over time, he uploaded 175 photos and videos documenting moments from their relationship, including ordinary scenes of Patrice that appeared to have been collected without any indication she expected them to be preserved that way. One post featured the two of them together alongside a caption saying he would rather keep trying than give up. Every upload appeared after Patrice had already ended the relationship and made it clear she wanted no further involvement with him. No one outside that hospital yet knew that the morning of May 13th would change everything. By the time the afternoon arrived, the worst had already happened, and detectives were no longer searching for a missing woman. They were investigating a murder. Patrice Wilson's vehicle surfaced near the intersection of Haggerty Road and 9 Mile Road in Novi, Michigan, drawing officers to an apartment complex that turned out to be her own. What they discovered there transformed an urgent search into a murder investigation. The evidence also began revealing a route that stretched far beyond the hospital where the day had started. Hours earlier, Patrice had completed her overnight shift at Detroit Receiving Hospital during Mother's Day weekend. Between approximately 7:40 and 7:53 that Saturday morning, she walked through the employee parking area on the 4200 block of St. Antoine Street while speaking with a friend on the phone. Security cameras had already captured someone lingering in the lot for nearly 2 hours before she arrived. Wearing a long blonde wig, a hat, glasses, a face covering, and carrying a backpack, the individual moved patiently through the area, appearing to wait for a specific moment rather than wandering aimlessly. When Patrice reached her SUV, the waiting ended. The disguised figure emerged from behind the rear passenger side of the vehicle and opened fire. Her friend, still connected by phone, heard Patrice cry out before the call fell into silence. The attacker immediately entered the driver's seat and left the hospital parking lot in Patrice's own vehicle, disappearing before anyone nearby understood what had happened. As detectives reconstructed the timeline, they determined that Patrice had been driven nearly 30 miles from Detroit to her apartment complex in Novi. Along that journey, investigators later learned the suspect stopped at a car wash in Inkster. By then, the disguise captured on surveillance footage, the blonde wig, hat, and mask, was gone, and authorities believed he had cleaned the vehicle before continuing to its final destination. Those movements became another critical piece of the investigation. While officers searched, Patrice's family faced agonizing uncertainty. Her grandmother, Pamela Golden, and her mother, Rosalind Livingston, spoke publicly, explaining that the friend on the phone had heard Patrice scream moments before all communication stopped.
Someone said they were talking to Patrice on the phone and they heard her scream.
Police quickly distributed information about Patrice's vehicle and circulated Jameer Michael Miller's image as they searched for him. The confirmation that followed devastated everyone who knew her. Rosalind learned that her daughter had been found inside the trunk of her own vehicle. Standing before reporters, she said she never had the chance to hold Patrice again or wish her a happy Mother's Day. She explained that Patrice had worked hard to distance herself from Jameer because she believed he brought nothing but harm into her life.
She dated him for a while, and she been trying to get away from him because she know he was toxic for her. I've been told him, a mother knows.
Inside Detroit Receiving Hospital, grief spread quickly among the staff who had worked beside Patrice every day. Colleagues remembered her as genuinely kind, dedicated to her patients, and focused on returning home to her son and family after each shift. They struggled to reconcile the compassionate nurse they knew with the violence that had claimed her life at only 29 years old.
In my little time of knowing her, you know what I'm saying, she did her job, she went home to her kid and her family.
Just an all-around good person, like no fluff, she was just really a good person.
The investigation was only beginning, but the loss had already left a permanent mark on everyone she touched. The search for Jameer Michael Miller expanded rapidly once investigators pieced together Patrice Wilson's final movements. Detectives from the Detroit Police Department's Major Crimes Division, Homicide Unit, Organized Crimes Division, Fugitive Apprehension Team, Special Response Team, Headquarters Surveillance, the 3rd Precinct, and numerous partner agencies joined the effort. Search warrants reached locations across Detroit, Inkster, Garden City, and Novi as officers worked to reconstruct every step surrounding the killing. His photograph quickly spread through television broadcasts and social media, leaving investigators confident that public visibility would narrow his options. That pressure produced results within days. On May 14, 2023, Jameer arranged his surrender through his attorney before turning himself in to Detroit police. Authorities formally announced his arrest the following day, May 15th. During that announcement, Detroit Police Chief James White identified the case as a domestic-related homicide, giving investigators their first public characterization of what had unfolded.
She got out of the relationship, and unfortunately, the tragic outcome was his violence and his persistence to keep her in that relationship.
Although the arrest brought a measure of relief, it offered little comfort to Patrice's family. Her grandmother later recalled receiving the phone call confirming that police had taken Jameer into custody.
We got a call this morning saying that they had picked him up, and we're so happy about that. Now we got to go forward. You know, it's still a lot of more questions that need to be asked.
Patrice had devoted her life to caring for others, yet officials emphasized that she had also done what domestic violence advocates often encourage. She ended the relationship and tried to move forward. Even so, persistence and escalating violence overtook those efforts. As Jameer's identity became widely known, another family experienced a different kind of shock. The name immediately reminded them of a disappearance that had remained unresolved for more than a decade. That woman was Bianca Green, whose loved ones had spent 12 years searching for explanations without ever receiving them. Patrice's case suddenly reopened painful memories they had never been able to put behind them. News investigations revealed that Jameer had previously been connected to 2 former girlfriends under troubling circumstances, including Bianca, who disappeared from the Romulus area in 2011 and has never been located. Investigators began taking another look at that cold case. Bianca was 24 years old, studying nursing, and raising her 4-year-old son, Jameer Jr., whom she shared with Jameer Miller. Family members also believed she was several weeks pregnant with a second child when she vanished. Those closest to Bianca consistently rejected the idea that she had disappeared voluntarily. According to relatives and friends, she had spent the previous year distancing herself from Jameer, even moving and keeping her new address secret because she feared him. That decision reflected how seriously she viewed the situation long before she disappeared. Roughly a year later, Jameer appeared in a public interview while holding their young son and asking viewers to help locate Bianca.
It's hard being a single father, and it's hard for me to even tell him what's going on.
Say, Mommy, we miss you.
Mommy, we miss you.
And we want you to come home.
And we want you to come home.
And we want God to bring you home.
And God to bring you home.
Police questioned Jameer during the investigation, but prosecutors never filed charges connected to Bianca's disappearance. After Patrice's murder, however, Chief James White confirmed that Detroit investigators would coordinate with Romulus Police to review Bianca's case again and determine whether any connection existed between the two investigations. The similarities were impossible to ignore. Bianca planned to become a nurse. Patrice had already become one. Both were young mothers. Both had ended relationships with Jameer Miller and tried to create distance from him. One disappeared without a trace, while the other lost her life. Whether those parallels reflected coincidence or something more became a question investigators could no longer dismiss. Another piece of evidence emerged much later inside a courtroom. Nearly 2 years after Patrice's death, prosecutors revealed a private note she had written in her phone on December 1, 2021. It had never been shared publicly during her lifetime. The note read, "I'm in love with a man who hurt the mother of his child." Those words suggested Patrice understood at least part of the history surrounding the man she had once loved. How much she truly knew may never be fully answered, but the note left behind one final glimpse into her private fears. Metro Detroit. People who had known Patrice Wilson gathered not to discuss the crime, but to remember the woman whose compassion had shaped so many lives. Her family, co-workers, fellow nurses, and sorority sisters chose to focus on the legacy she left behind rather than the violence that had taken her from them.
Always going to be the fun parts about the sorority, but this type of thing right here is what matters the most.
It's beautiful. She was beautiful. Her soul was, her smile was, the way she carried herself.
Rosalind Livingston later said seeing so many people gathered for her daughter gave her comfort during one of the most painful periods of her life. Hospital staff also organized a GoFundMe campaign to help cover funeral expenses while establishing a college fund for Patrice's 7-year-old son, Tyrese. Donations quickly exceeded $20,000, demonstrating how strongly the community wanted to support the family and preserve Patrice's legacy for her child. On June 1, 2023, Jameer Michael Miller appeared by Zoom for his arraignment. Prosecutors charged him with 11 offenses related to Patrice's death, including first-degree murder, felony murder, carjacking, armed robbery, 1 count of felon in possession of a firearm, and 5 felony firearm charges. Prosecutors argued he should remain jailed, pointing to the severity of the allegations, his probation status, multiple active bonds in other courts, and what they described as repeated failures to comply with previous court orders. After hearing both arguments, the magistrate ruled that the alleged premeditated nature of the crime and the possibility of a life sentence made him too dangerous to release. Jameer remained in custody without bond. On October 10, 2023, Jameer Miller pleaded guilty to 1 count of second-degree homicide. The remaining 10 charges were dropped as part of a plea agreement. When asked what she thought when he pled guilty, Rosalind said he admitted he was guilty, and that meant she wouldn't have to go through a trial and see her daughter's pictures or the video of her in the trunk. She was just glad they didn't go to trial. The sentencing hearing took place on November 7, 2023, before Judge Kevin Cox at Detroit's Frank Murphy Hall of Justice. One by one, Patrice's loved ones addressed the court, describing the pain Jameer Miller had left behind. Patrice's former partner and the father of her son, Tyrese Berry, then spoke directly to Jameer. He said Jameer preyed on women and took Patrice's life because she refused to fear him. He reminded him that their son now knew the truth and said Jameer had disgraced his own family over something as meaningless as a wig.
nobody in this world that is scared of you as a man, bro. You scare women. But you were scared of her because she wasn't scared of you. And that's what you did. But see, my son got closure. He know what you did. He know. You know he know. But do your son got closure? Do your son got closure for what you did? You man enough to tell everybody what you did to my baby mama. What did you do to yours?
Patrice's grandmother, Pamela Golden, questioned how someone could claim to love Patrice and then take her life. She said she hoped he would spend the rest of his life behind bars reflecting on what he had done. The prosecutor called the killing a brutal act of domestic violence, saying Jameer had gone to the hospital intending to stalk and ambush Patrice.
What kind of person were you? What kind of person are you to do this to her? Every time you think about her, You talk about you loved her? How could you love a person and you took her life? How? Is that love? Is that really love? Man.
When given the chance to speak, Jameer had his attorney read his statement. He said he replayed that morning every night, admitted Patrice didn't deserve what happened, apologized to both families, and asked for forgiveness, acknowledging that nothing he said could undo the harm he had caused. The courtroom proceedings eventually reached their conclusion. Judge Kevin Cox sentenced Jameer Michael Miller to 35 to 60 years in the Michigan Department of Corrections. Although the sentence closed one chapter of the criminal case, it could never restore the future Patrice Wilson had worked so hard to build. For her family, justice meant accountability, but it did not erase the loss they carried every day. Rather than allowing Patrice's memory to fade, her mother, Rosalind Livingston, chose to turn grief into opportunity. She created the Patrice L. Wilson Scholarship, an award presented each Mother's Day weekend to nursing students who are also mothers. The scholarship has been awarded every year since 2023, reflecting the same compassion, determination, and devotion that defined Patrice's own life. Patrice's influence also continued through a project she helped create years earlier. In 2019, she and Deandra Brown launched Nursing from the D to celebrate and connect Detroit's nursing community. The platform remains active, carrying forward the vision they built together.
I decided to continue something that we started together. And the first thing that I wanted to do to honor her is to start a scholarship in her name.
Patrice Wilson's family now has a verdict and a legacy they continue to protect through her scholarship and the lives it supports. Bianca Green's family has neither. Her disappearance remains unsolved. No charges have been filed against Jameer in connection with her case, and investigators have never found her. For one family, there are answers. For the other, the search is still unfinished. Before you go, if Patrice's story moved you in any way, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. It helps these stories reach more people and ensures that victims like Patrice are never forgotten. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next case.